shortly, just got another minute or two. Please note that we are recording this, and so just be aware of that. No reason why that should necessarily mess with you. You are more than welcome, by the way, to keep your videos off during this, because Lachko will be, who is hosting this, will be paying attention to his screen as he shares it. I'll be monitoring the chat. You will all be muted for basically the first 45 minutes or so of the webinar. And so there's not really any need to consume bandwidth and stuff like that by sharing your video with us. So if you have turned on your video, please go ahead and turn it off at this time. All right, well, we will go ahead and begin, and we expect that there will be some stragglers who will join us mid-course, and that'll be just fine. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Really appreciate it. My name is Tim Slade. I work for RTI as a senior research education analyst, and in the world of Tangerine, I am the product manager for international education. Joining me in facilitating most of the demonstrations today is Lachko Hristov. You may have interacted with the two of us through the Tangerine help desk. We are the primary points of contact for anyone who has issues with Tangerine or wants to initiate a subscription, is looking for help just to test things out, whatever the case may be. You'll probably see the two of us responding to your emails through that platform. Thank you so much for joining us. If you're here, you probably already know about Tangerine, but just by way of background, this is an open source data collection software. It's getting on to be about 10 years old now. And the webinar's content for today is an introduction to the latest and greatest features of the tool. I think you all know it began mostly to help with early grade reading and early grade math assessments, but it has now expanded to be a powerful tool for all kinds of other data collection activities as well, from large-scale survey-based research to research into sensitive topics using the audio computer-assisted self-interviewing module, and also some tools that we have for working with the assessment of executive function in children of younger than school age. The way this webinar is going to go, we've got about 45 minutes worth of demonstration and content that Lachko is going to lead us through. For the last 10 to 15 minutes or so, we'll be taking questions. Please feel free to enter your questions in the chat over the course of the meeting. I will be monitoring that and responding to those which are quick and easy by text. However, if there's one that warrants our interrupting Lachko and asking him to address it directly at that time, we'll go ahead and do that. We are currently keeping you on mute, and we'll maintain you on mute until the last 10 or 15 minutes of this webinar. This is the second in a series of 3. We did one last week, and we'll do another one next week. When we get to the end of the series, we will take whichever one of these recordings was smoothest and clearest, and we'll make that available. We'll host it on our website, and we'll send all attendees a link to that resource. But for now, that's it. We'll go ahead and jump into the context, into the content. Lachko?
Thanks, Tim. Hi, everyone. I'm Lachko Hristov. As Tim said, you know me from the help desk, most likely. If not, you would get to know me today. I work at RTI, part of the development team for Tangerine, but I'm not really a developer, and I also handle the support requests for all of you, including internal RTI users. What we're going to do today is we'll do a walkthrough, mostly focusing on new functionality You are a mixed crowd, so there are users that are already using V3. There are users that are using V3, which is an older version of V3, and there are users. There are some of you that have not seen V3 at all. This is why at some point you may get a little bit bored if you are a V3 user, but just bear with me, there is something new for everyone. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Now, already from the beginning, we'll use this side code testing for this demonstration. Just loading the page, you will notice differences in the way Tangerine looks. I will log in with my user to this website. Once we log in, we can see all of the groups that we have or that we have created. If you are in the free tier, here you will see only one group. Already on the first page, we see an addition, something that we didn't have before is the group creation date and time. So you can quickly see when was a group created. On the left-hand side menu, we also see users. If I click this link, this will give me a listing of all site users. Here you would add a user first, and then you would add this user to a particular group. Having a user in the site users does not mean that this user has any access. As you know from before, we can have an admin or a member user for different groups, regardless of whether there is an account for the website. A new addition here is that now you can create users which are more elevated or with elevated rights. If I click this shield icon, you will see that the user Lachko, the user that I'm using currently, has rights to also create groups, but also to modify other users, to create other users, or to change permissions for the entire website. Before, we only allowed the user one account to do group creation and user management. Now you can delegate this to other users. If you want to archive a user, in other words, soft deleting a user so that they cannot log in anymore, you can click the delete icon, which moves this user to archived underneath on that page. I will go back to the main group listing and we can start exploring. The group we'll be using today is the showcase group, so I will go ahead and click this one. To maximize space, you can always click the beside the showcase here or beside the group name. You can click these three vertical lines or three horizontal lines, sorry, to collapse the side menu. The first thing you will see is that we have four tabs. Both of those, both the side menu and the main group landing page give you these four tabs. These are logical groupings of tasks, or these tabs represent logical groupings. What we have author. In author, you'll be able to find your forms or edit your forms, but also the media library is located here. So anything that you want to render to the screen, like images or questions, will be in author. The next tab is the data tab. Here you'll be able to browse your data, to download the CSV file, or to view the data dashboard report. In configuration, in the configure tab, we have the location list, and the group security is also handled through there. And under the deploy tab, we see the device profiles that have been created and the different deployment strategies. Let's go ahead and open the author tab. Inside here, you can see that I have the media library. If you are using any images or sounds in your assessments or interviews, they will be loaded here. Upon clicking, I can see a listing of all the files and a path to that file. So this path can be used anywhere inside the application, or if you're using the image functionality, you can directly select the image from there. Under forms, we have all the forms available to us in this particular group. Starting from number 3 to whatever is the last number form is what is being displayed to the user when they open the tablet, when they open the app on the tablet. The first form, the user profile, is a form that we present to the user on the tablet, to the tablet user upon registering. So the tablet user first registers their username onto the device, and then they have to fill in the profile form. You can modify this form by clicking the edit button here. The on-device report is a new form, also editable, although it may be too complicated for most users. We do have a standard on-device report, which we are going to see later when we switch to the tablet. And these are all the forms that you will see today during the demonstration. I'm going to go ahead and explore the reading classroom observation, which is form number 8. Clicking on the edit beside the form will bring me to this form's edit screen. What we see next are all the sections or pages that this form contains. So I see that this form contains a location, a date and time, general information, and a reading classroom observation. I can copy a particular section, edit a section, or delete it if I want to. How do I add a new section? I can click the Add Section button at the bottom. Let's go ahead and open one of those sections just to see what's inside. We have the section header, where you see the section ID and some other configuration for that section. Remember that you can configure sections separately, so you can disable the back and next button on one section but keep them enabled on another, or hide the question labels or the question arrows, icons. What we have now are all the questions. So you'll see a listing of all the questions that you have inside this one section. If you want to move questions around, you can just drag and drop them and move them. If you want to insert a question in a particular location, you can click the Insert Here button, which is repeated many times on this page. If I click the Insert button here, the Insert Here button on this position, I'm going to insert a new question just before reading modality. The Add Elements or the Insert Here button gives you a summary of all question types that we support. So you can see all the inputs, all the date and time, the lists and Boolean on-off elements, as well as some other specialty elements like the GPS collection, the location input, which is tied to the location list for that group, the image, the HTML content container, which allows us to insert any HTML formatted text, the repeatable groups, which we will see as well today, signature if you're collecting the signature, consent, the QR code scanner, which does not scan only QR codes, but you can scan barcodes and some other codes with it, and the speciality inputs like the EF Touch widget, the Acacia widget, which we'll see today, and the EGRA and EGMA widgets, timed and untimed grids. I'm not going to click any one of these, but I will open in edit mode one of those questions. So I'll open the reading modality in edit mode. Inside here, you will see, depending on which version of Tangerine you're coming, you'll see a slight difference. So the first page is now very simple. It contains only the minimum information you need for a question. You need the variable name, the question label, maybe a question number, hint text, and the values for this question. The other tabs give us access to some other configurations. We can access the conditional display, which now gives us both the positive and the negative skip logic, so we can skip a question on the positive logic, or on the negative we can show it. Under validation, you can see that we have a warning and an error. What is the difference is that the warning will fail only once, but allow us to proceed the next time we click next. Here you can use this to verify that the user has not made a mistake, but also allow them to proceed after they have verified that it is not a mistake. An error, on the other hand, will not allow the user to proceed until they correct it. Under advanced option, we can use a CSS class and style for a particular question. Something to just note is this setting here, this is a new setting, is identifier. Or in other words, this is a personally identifiable information. Just make note of this. If I mark this field as personally identifiable, we have a way to hide it from the CSV export, which you will see later. I will now go back to the main listing, and actually I'll go back to the form listing, and let's see what else we have. So we've explored the edit button. We also have the print button. In print, you will now see that we have print content, print metadata, and we have those new for V3, which are the print stimuli and the print form backup. The copy button will just copy the form into whichever group we select as destination. If I select showcase, a new form will be, the same form will be copied in the same group that I'm currently. And just like before, we have the delete and archive buttons. We always advise you do not delete your forms, archive them when you do not need them. All archived forms, let's archive one of them. All archived forms are not displayed to the tablet user. The tablet user will only see active forms, but an archive forms, you will always have access to it. This concludes the Author tab. Let's quickly go to the Data tab. In the Data tab, you will see something new. Here we have a dashboard. It's a frequency report. It's still very basic, but useful to monitor your data collection. We click onto the dashboard and we have to select a month, a year, and the form we would like to monitor. Last week, we entered some data for the classroom observation, so I'll select this form, and I can see I have 7 submissions. They were all unfortunately done last week on Thursday, otherwise we'll see a scatter plot for each one of the days. The GPS coordinates, if they're present, the start date and time. Each question, single selection questions are displayed in a pie chart where you can see the percentage of each one of the answers. Text questions are given in a table where you can see frequency if they have repeated answer. So Y1 as a value has been repeated twice in this particular example. And I just want to find, number of students is displayed in bar chart, and we also have the multiple answer options are displayed as bar charts as well in a different color. The same, absolutely the same report is now available to the tablet user. This is the on-device report that I mentioned earlier. Let's go back. The upload screen gives us access to what was uploaded to the server. It has been improved a little bit, so now if you scroll to the left, you will see all the form data here and all the answer. Of course, it would be better if I first select a form before we look at it. I may not have data for this form. Anyhow, from here you can see a listing of everything that has been uploaded to the server, and you can edit it or delete it. If I click edit, I will go to this record, and I'll be able to look at it. Since this record was already closed, it's completed, I cannot actually edit it, but if this was an incomplete upload, I'll be able to edit it. What else do we have in the data tab? We have the download CSV. We moved this from the author just to split the functionality of the form. So if whenever you want to download the data for a particular form, you have to go to the data tab. Just like before, we click the download button beside the form, and here we can select to download all data, which is the, if we leave it as the asterisk and click submit, or we can download the data for a particular month. Remember how I asked you to note the personally identifiable setting inside the form? If we have configured a field to be PII and I check this check mark over here, after clicking submit, the resulting CSV file will not contain any fields that have been marked as PII. If you share your data during your data collection and you would like to remove certain data, this is a very quick way of doing so. Let's go and see the Configure tab. Under the Configure tab, we have the location list, which in V3 is a central piece. The location list contains the location levels, but also the location content. We can add and manipulate the list through the interface here, or we can import that list from a CSV file. A new thing that's coming in this release is that we can also now export the list. So if you export the list for a particular group, you no longer have to keep track of what the IDs were. So I exported this list, I can modify it, and I can then re-upload this list from the Import tab and preserve everything I had before. Under the Deploy section, you'll see three options. The device users are the user profiles that have uploaded data. So this is a very quick way for you to see the tablet username that the person selected, plus what information they actually filled on the user profile. The user profile fields will also be displayed over here. If you want to export this data, all the user profiles can be downloaded from Data, Download CSV, and clicking the user profile download button beside the title. The deploy, then we go to the offline app, which is something you have already seen, and we have a new feature, which is the release online survey, where we can mark a form as an online form. I will go ahead and mark the, we had the simplified EGRA. I'll mark the simplified EGRA as an online form. Once I've marked it, it goes up and we can see the published date and a link to that form. I can copy this link or just click it to open in a new tab. Something to keep in mind is that we are still struggling a little bit with compatibility, and the online form is only compatible with Chrome and Safari, and both Chrome and Safari on a computer or on a device. So Internet Explorer and Firefox unfortunately do not work here. When the user starts completing that form, they can go through each one of the sections. I'm actually going to click no so we finish earlier, and once I submit, my data is automatically sent to the server and the user doesn't have to install the application or click synchronize on the tablet to synchronize their results. So now this result has already been pushed to the server. The other options that we have under deploy are the one that we are all familiar with, the release offline application. Here we have two types of releases. For some of you, this may be new. and others you may know already. We have the Android installation, which gives us an APK file. This APK file can be installed on any Android 5 and above device. And the web browser installation, which is also called a progressive web app, which is the way to install an application inside the Chrome browser on a device or onto a computer. With this version of Tangerine, you can do data collection or back data entry onto a laptop. And we are going to use the Chrome browser to go through some of the forms that you saw earlier in the author forms section.
So Lachko, I'm going to jump in here real quickly.
Yes,
just to give you a chance to maybe stretch, breathe, take a drink of water. Want to flag for everyone that we are happy to take your written questions at this time. I'm monitoring the chat, so if there's anything you'd like to ask about, now would be a good time. And feel free to just do that throughout while Lachko is demonstrating the various features. And just as an example of a clarification question, Lachko, the primary difference between a web browser installation and the new online survey feature is basically that for the online survey feature, there's no need to log in first or create a user first. It is simply available directly upon following the link. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. Okay. If there are no questions right now, I'll go ahead and get back out of the way, and Lachko, take us forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to rest a moment. The web browser installation is an installation, but it works absolutely in the same way as the Android one. And the online one does not require you to install anything. You just follow a link and fill in the survey. Both the Android and the web browser installation work offline. So what we are going to see now, even if I'm using the Chrome browser, I still have to synchronize. It is not an online survey. What is the difference between a test and a live release? Imagine you have installed 60 tablets in the field in live mode, but there is a change that you want to introduce and you want to test this change before you actually push the release to the users. Remember, this version of Tangerine, the moment you click the release, someone with a tablet or a phone can update their application onto the tablet. So we need a way to be able to test something before we push it to the tablet. This is the point of having a test and a live release. If a tablet is installed in live mode and you release a test release, this tablet will not receive this update. Only tablets that are using the test release will receive the update. And the other way around, if you do a live release, any tablet using the test mode will not be updated. I'm going to go ahead and click the live release. We get a link. I will copy this link, and actually I have it pasted already over here. Let's just follow the link and do it. Since I already have the application installed, when I click the link, once again, it's doing an update instead of an installation, and I will make this screen bigger now. So the tablet interface is exactly the same as what you see here. Basically, it is the same application being opened. I have already created a user. Had I not, you would go to register and you would create a user. I will use my user to log back in. Once I log in, now you can see the connection between the author form listing, where all of the forms I see are forms that are not the reports and not the user profile. The user profile for me on a tablet is accessible by clicking the top right menu, Manage Profile, and I can modify my data from here and save it if modification is required. What else can I do from this account menu, let's call it? Under settings, I can change the language of the application. So if I change to Jordanian, the entire interface will switch and all prompts will become in Arabic. I'll go back and change the language once again, and here I already get confused. So now I'm inside Arabic. I will go to settings and change to English so that I have the interface that I can read. We have just 5 languages so far, and I think Portuguese is also on the queue to add, but if you need another language, we can send you an Excel file which is easily translatable, and we can add this very quickly to any one of your groups. Under sync is where I will see how many results I have uploaded or how many responses I have uploaded, how many responses are pending to be uploaded, and I have the option to upload responses for all users. Tangerine still supports more than one user on a tablet, so if a tablet is shared, we'll see all the users here, and by clicking sync, all of my data will be sent to the server, or sorry, not just mine, all of the user data will be sent to the server. What I want to do now is let's go through just one form, which is the reading classroom observation. I've selected this form, or we have selected this form because it's a classroom observation. We're not going to concentrate on what the questions are. I'll quickly fill it in. But I want to show you it contains a feedback screen, and the feedback screen is something that can be very useful when you're doing a classroom observation. The feedback screen is coded with skip logic, just like any other question is done with skip logic, but it gives you or it gives your coach the opportunity to provide structured feedback to the teacher. Let's see how that works. So once I click submit, I have already submitted my form, and I go to a page which is in a separate tab called summary, and in this page I can see everything that I have coded in on that summary page. So I see that certain behaviors I need to praise because the teacher is doing everything great, and for other things I need to advise them to improve. For example, here they didn't, not everyone had books. The summary page, we can also ask questions, but we cannot guarantee that those will be filled in. You can see I have a question on the summary page, so I can answer it, and I can click save afterwards to save my question. Once I'm done, I need to go to the sync page to sync my data. We also have a simplified EGRA that we can take a look, but I'm actually going to skip that for now. What I want to show you is an interesting feature or an interesting implementation that we can do now with V3, which is the teacher registration. Imagine we want to collect data for training or attendance data or any sort of event. What we can do is I can first go and register each teacher one by one. I've already registered a few, so I'm going to enter one more teacher here, test teacher, and their phone number. Let's capitalize their letter. I click submit. So now I've entered the teacher in the system. So on this tablet, I can go to the teacher report, select the event date that if this was a training, I'll select training day 1 or training day 2, select the location if we want to have the location. And now beside each one of the teachers that I've entered in the system, I can mark them if they're present or not. And the teacher that's not present, we leave them like this and click submit. If on the next training date we have another teacher join and they tell you that it's their first day, I go once again to the teacher registration. Let's do part Simpson. We'll enter their phone number. So we'll register the new teacher if someone joined on day number 2, and when we go to the report, they will be automatically added for us to select as present or not. Oh, yeah. Just a feature or an implementation of something that may be very useful. The other items that we want to show you today are the Akasi items and the EFTouch items. The Akasi item is, I can never remember what the abbreviation stands for, but I think it's the an automated computer-assisted self-interview. Tim, correct me if I'm wrong.
You got it.
Wrote it down. Okay, I even wrote it down, but I don't see where. And
Audio assisted computer self-interviewing.
Oh,
yeah.
audio assisted, yeah. And the EFTouch tasks that we'll take a look are the animal go, no go, and the bubble tasks, which are for executive function. Let's go ahead and do the audio assisted interview. In this interview, the idea is that first the assessor will fill in the location, maybe some other data. They'll enter the student's number, or the student number is generated. Then they'll collect the student consent, and upon clicking next, or even before they click next, they will hand the tablet over to the student, and the tablet will be connected with the headphones, and the headphones will also be given to the student. Actually, there is a preparation, so this is where we hand the tablet to the student. On the next page, upon loading it, you will actually hear the audio for the question read out loud. And so I'll stop talking now.
Lachko, the audio is extremely faint.
Okay, in case you didn't hear the audio, the question was read out loud. I cannot remember actually what the question is, and we have these images displaying to us what the options are. So if the question was, how many times do you observe or experience something? I do not experience it, so 0 times nothing's on the image. Once, a few times, many times, or none. Upon clicking, I hope you can hear it. If it's too faint, I'll just let you know that upon clicking there is an audio coming through as well. So now the answer was also played to me from the audio. So me as a student, I can hear the question, I can click the answer option, and I can also hear my selection in the headphones. If I need the question repeated, I can click the replay button and the question will be replayed to me. This is the second question, number 2. It gives the same answer option, just a different question. I'm going to select one option and go next. Up. And let's stop here. So the audio is still going. So this was just the example that we did. The idea is that the student can do the evaluation on their own, and I know that RTI used this in a situation where we were concerned that we may not get the right answer if someone was actually present during the interview. And this is when the tablet was handed over to the student and they were interviewed. Now let's explore the executive function tasks. We have the bubbles task, which is a fun task. The EFTouch inputs or assessments are slightly different. They require us to go in full screen, and you will see how the moment I click the task, now I have another option here that allows us to go full screen. And in Tangerine, this is now a feature. You can enable full screen mode on any one of your assessments. I'm going to go ahead and click that. Now you see that also the next button changed, and I have another way to exit if I click the middle button. Upon clicking next, the task will start automatically. So this task, I'm supposed to click the bubble when it comes to the screen. The moment I click, we'll start with the task. So there is an input sound upon selection, and there is a swoosh when we switch to the next screen. If I do not touch, the page or the item position will change. This is how this task is designed. And there are many ways, many different tasks from the executive function task array. This is just an example. We are not going to go through all of it. Another example of an EF touch function is the animal go, no go, where once again we go in full screen mode, and we have to, first we present all the pictures to the child. We ask them to touch the cat, touch the dog. I hope you can hear the input. Touch the turtle, the cow, the fish, and finally we need to touch the pig. So we want to make sure that the child knows what the image of the animal. Now we touch the green button, and we have to touch the green button every time that it is not a pig. So this is a cat, I'm going to touch it. This is a pig, I'm not going to touch it. And this is the training unit where I have to click the next button. So I'm just going to click the next button quickly now. And now we go into number 4, 5, and we go into the automatic task. Now is where it begins. So I can no longer proceed by clicking next. I can only proceed, or the task continues on its own, and I can click it or not click it. And all of this is recorded, so we can see the click time, and we already know how long an item is displayed to the child on the screen. Just as an example. Here in the tablet, we also have the Visits tab. The Visits tab gives us a listing of all schools that have been visited for a particular month. So here we will see a grouping by month. I can go to one of those schools and open the form to review it or resume it if it wasn't completed, but also I have access to the report screen from here. Just like the report screen that we saw on the back end, this is a standard report screen that we can see on the tablet. Oh, there's nothing here. What we see, the only difference between this report and the report you can run from the backend is that this report is only based on the data collected on this one tablet. There is nothing else there. So I see that on the 21st of January, I've done 3 forms. I've completed the numbers match. I've completed this form 3 times. I can see the GPS of where it is, the location, which school was selected from the location list and how many times. And once again, you can see single questions as a pie chart, multiple selection as bar charts, etc. Once we are done with everything, we need to synchronize. The check for update, if we want to introduce any update, we can do this now easily, so there is no longer the need to uninstall the application and reinstall it. We can just click check for updates from the tablet and update the application if that is required. Just looking at my cheat sheet. Okay, one thing I forgot to mention, this is basically everything, but one new addition is that now if you are not the user1 user, so everyone but the user1 user can click the icon on the top left to go into their account. They can modify their account information, and also they can update their passwords. So if you want to update your password, you have to insert your current password plus the new password 2 times. And here I'm going to pause for questions.
Thank you, Lechko. Appreciate that. We've had a couple of questions come in, and we can either address them right now or kick them to just a little bit later. Pierre was asking about a bug that was present in an earlier version where if you created a question that had a variable name and then deleted it and recreated a new question with the same variable name, that it would basically be a duplicate variable. And he's wondering if that has been resolved in the most recent versions of Tangerine.
I'm thinking, I think, like, Pierre, correct me if I'm wrong, the issue that you're saying is that you will see 2 of the same variable in the CSV, where you would rather see just 1 of those. Is this correct? Okay, yeah, so yes, this is fixed. Only 1 variable will be displayed in the... Actually, no, I'll hold it there. I'm not 100% sure. I think it is fixed, but maybe it's not. I'm going to make a note and get back to you tomorrow, okay?
The other question that Pierre was asking about was the stalling snapshot method. So I was suggesting that you would be able to explain a little bit how we combine the repeated section forms along with, for example, the JavaScript-based timer to have an auto-advancing sort of experience for people who want to use that kind of approach.
I think actually we have this over here. I don't have the another type prepared as a Oh, I'm not a member of this group. Let me just log out.
While you're doing that, I'll answer a question that Jenny posed. Jenny, the EF Touch items have been piloted in Kenya under a program, under a research study that was associated with the Tayari early childhood development program. And we've found that they perform very well, not just in terms of how the Tangerine software renders EF Touch, but in terms of the way those particular assessment constructs actually get at underlying executive function. One of the important things to flag is that just like EGRA and EGMA are batteries of subtasks, and you can sort of mix and match the subtasks according to what you would like to accomplish. EF Touch is a much broader sort of psychological construct than just the 7 or 8 subtasks that are currently in place and available in Tangerine. There are actually places you can go that will give you lists of hundreds of different ways of administering EF Touch assessments. And so if there winds up being an EF Touch assessment that you would like to add into the mix somehow, please let us know. It may be possible to go ahead and build that out using the existing infrastructure, or it may be something that would require additional development. In terms of, was it easy for children to understand the less conventional way of answering? So yes, because they're essentially games. And so what they're measuring is, for instance, response time or the ability to inhibit an instinctual response in a case where the prompt was to click on everything but the pig, for instance. And that worked really effectively. Kids took to it very easily, and the constructs were robust and aligned with prior research in other contexts. Happy to put you in contact with the sort of lead expert on executive function at RTI after this. If you'd like to just go ahead and send me a message at the help desk email, which I dumped slightly up thread, support@tangerinehelp.zendesk.com. I'll be happy to flag you to our colleague Mike Willoughby and let the two of you engage that conversation in more depth. Lachko, to you.
Okay, so first, Yes, Pierre, there is no need to uninstall the app. You can just update it. So the comparing to V2 where you had to uninstall or sync your result, uninstall, then reinstall the app, re-register the user. There is no need to do that anymore. Once the application is installed, you can push changes from the server. The tablet user only has to go to over here to this and click check for update. I also have, I hope this is a working version. I didn't have this prepared, but this is an example of stallings. So we have a timer, it's set for 15 seconds just for demonstration. So whatever we select, we click what we are observing currently in this interval. When the time runs out, the next interval starts and we say, okay, during this interval, I'm observing the teacher is doing bridging and they're doing this and that behavior. Oh, but also they're doing feedback, so it's this and that. And when the time runs out, we go to the next page. If the class has terminated at some point, we check the lesson terminated and we just need to wait for the timer to run out. This type of evaluation, it's a little bit of a hack, but possible. So you can see that we still have the intervals, so it's not quite what Tim was saying just now, but we have a way to advance the page by actually using the F-Touch widget where the timers are very important. But if you want if you want more information on how to do that, or an example, I can copy it for you in your account to try it out.
Okay. So I think that those are all of the currently pending questions. So just a reminder, everyone, we've got about 9 minutes remaining on this webinar. Please feel free to enter any new questions you'd like to have answered. We're happy to take those right now.
While we are waiting for questions, I think we have I actually marked it as archived, but it's not a full, I didn't work on that one. It's not a full demonstration, but we can see it at least here in preview mode. So there is a way for you to add unknown number of repeatable questions. So this is first question, I answer test, and question number 2, I answer yes, no. Then if you want another set of the same questions, you can just click add another. And then when you scroll down, you can see that there is one more of these. Though these types of questions, they come into the database as group name .0, .1, .2, 3, whatever, how many you had, and then dot variable name. So they come out in the CSV slightly differently. And we do have some limitations on skip logic, but we have a way to work around it as well.
Lechko, there was another question that came in. Pierre is asking what language Tangerine was written in. It's JavaScript, HTML.
Yeah, Tangerine is JavaScript, well, JavaScript and HTML implied. It's using Node.js on the server side, so it's a Node application, and the tablet part is implemented through Angular, plus a little bit more, some other libraries that are all wrapped inside Cordova plugin. So the actual code that you see on the website plus what's on the tablet is the same code, just inside the wrapper, but it's all JavaScript.
There was another question. Someone was asking whether there will be a transcript of this webinar. The only transcript that we would have available is the one that comes along as part of the Zoom cloud recording. So as I mentioned, this is webinar number 2 in the series. There's another one next week. It covers the exact same content. So if you were here today, please don't feel like you need to come back next week. We'll just take the recording from each of the 3 webinars, see which one is the smoothest and covers the most ground. And then we'll go ahead and host that on one of RTI's websites. And then we'll circulate a link to it. And so you'll be able to rewatch the demonstrations by Lechko and also follow along with the transcript if you would like.
Just a little bit of an addition. I looked at the transcript of last week's session, and the text looks okay. Here and there were issues with my accent, I assume, but any native speaker will be able to figure it out.
Yeah, Zoom's auto transcription is a little hit and miss, but it's usually good enough to get close.
Yeah, it was good.
And I know that we had a request last week for whether we'd be delivering this webinar in any other languages, and unfortunately we will not. Sorry for that, but with the transcript and the wonders of Google Translate, a lot of people will be able to get a lot of value from this. So apologies for not necessarily being able to do it for you in your language of preference. Okay, we're down to our last 5 minutes. Now would be a good time to ask any additional questions you'd like to pose. Lachko, we interrupted you a little bit as you were demonstrating the repeatable sections function.
No, that's all.
Okay. The use case for that is a little similar to what we were describing with the stalling snapshot question that Pierre was asking about, in the sense that sometimes you know that every X interval you want to ask the same question repeatedly, you just don't know how long that'll take. And so we've discussed having these kinds of functions for things like monitoring classrooms and understanding, how the teachers are using their time, but also for things like professional learning communities. So if teachers are doing some kind of school-based professional development exercise and we want to understand how it's working, the use of repeatable sections can be really good for that kind of approach. Similarly, for registering an unknown number of users for a given event, things like that, it winds up being a very good fit. One of the things, so Pierre just mentioned that at some point they'll help with Tangerine manual in French. We definitely appreciate that. Anyone else who'd like to volunteer to do that in any other language, we would of course welcome, and we can guide you on that process. I wanted to flag for you that we are now moving away from having a standalone PDF for the Tangerine manual, and now we have docs.tangerinecentral.org. Which is a website that is very nicely integrated with our development and architecture process. And that is available online. You can go ahead and click through. Lachko is demonstrating it right now. And it's very cool that we have a few features that are in the cookbook for form developers that can let you see little GIFs that demonstrate specific interaction, but then related to those GIFs, they also have a link that can take you to a different editor where you can view the code and you can see how it was all put together and play with it in a little sandbox. That's making use of an external service. It's not something that we developed ourselves, but it can be really useful if you are feeling courageous enough to sort of dive into the code, or you want to do something that's a little unusual, but you'd like to be able to get rapid feedback and understand how it's working. This is a really useful little, I don't want to say feature, but tool that we've incorporated into the documentation.
Yeah, I forgot to mention the documentation, but yeah, the documentation is structured, or the main sections that you would use are the form editor and the data collector. Just a note here, Tangerine is now also used in a medical content, and you will see references to functionality that we have not brought yet in the education context. So just something to be aware of.
But to be clear on that, Lachko, it's all one Tangerine. So it's
all one
not
Tangerine.
that it's not available. It's just that we haven't emphasized it in these conversations. Yeah. But as an example, some of what Lachko is talking about There are clinical drug trials that are being done in parts of Africa that are being supported by Tangerine. And so there are now case management functions. So for instance, looking at being able to trace vaccination compliance and stuff like that, it's useful to be able to create a case and then attach individuals to that case. So like a mother and her children, and then maybe another partner, and then being able to longitudinally track the administration of vaccines, things like that. It's very, very powerful. There are also features around like rapidly reporting adverse events that come around. And also, even though this is less used on the education side, in the health side, the use of SQL databases is very prevalent. And so there will very shortly be an integration, or the ability to integrate Tangerine with MySQL or other types of relational databases. So rather than just feeding things into an Excel spreadsheet and then loading them into Stata or R or Python or whatever you'd like, you'd be able to feed it into a SQL database and then run queries against it like you would any other kind of relational tool. All right. Lachko, I believe we are at time. Are there any other parting shots you'd like to pass on to everyone before we dismiss them?
No, not really. Just I want to once again say thank you everyone for joining, and keep in mind we are here to support you in the transition to this latest version, and yeah, good luck with everything.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. We appreciate your time. Look forward to seeing you around. A couple of you, I've invited you to please send your messages to me via the help desk so we can go ahead and get you the translation interface or connect you onward to other researching colleagues. We look forward to hearing from you, and yeah, please be in touch.
Bye, everyone.